Hi, I'm Linda Summers.
And I'm Jeannie Lemaire.
And this is Emerging Self, bringing heaven to earth. And today we are talking about being, doing, and having enough. Well,
really.
So.
What a topic.
What a topic. And you know, it's what's interesting. Oh, I want to let you know that last week when I mentioned that show that I didn't know the name of it, it is called The Ultimate Life. Oh. So if you want to take a look at that and check it out, definitely do that because it's a really good movie. So, yeah, you know, and also too, I just want to say one thing, that I want to say that I am grateful for being here in this time in history, being one of the light workers and doing this work and raising the consciousness. So I'm really, really grateful for that. Extremely grateful for that. So.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, because this person will know who I'm speaking of, I'm really grateful that this person heard me when I said, if you need to call me in the middle of the night, that you would pick up the phone and you would call me. And I just want to thank you. You know who you are, because in our conversation, it boosted your belief and your trust, that you could count on that I said what I meant what I said, and that I am and was there for you. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for hearing me. You know, so many times we put thoughts out there and they don't get heard, and nobody gets it, and they don't want to bother us and all those kinds of things, and yet you heard me enough to make that call, so thank you.
Yeah.
Really. I'm just saying, you know,
yeah.
We say words all the time, but, you know, we don't always get heard.
Yeah, and you'll notice that in all these topics that we're talking about for this month, they're so interlinked.
Absolutely.
The lack, the fear, and now talking about being, doing, and having enough. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say, you know, for myself about being, which is one of our first ones we're talking about, is I know that, you know, it's about self-confidence, it's in the emotional realm, but, you know, being able just to be enough, like I had spoke about last week about being in the comprehension class that my parents put me in, and that made me feel that more less than without really even them even saying anything. You know?
No intention.
No intention at all. And so it's just interesting how that we can bring up beliefs about ourselves that, you know, they just come from nowhere.
Right, and they come from watching too. I mean, it's great being a parent, and sometimes I've heard people say, oh, I want to do better than what my parents did, whatever, and I know all parents want to do a good job, but we just don't realize when we ourselves get tired or cranky or in some state of lack or not enough, that gets transmuted. They actually see it in action. It's invisible, and yet we somehow pick it up, and it's very real.
Well, and that brings, you know, raising my kids and stuff, and I remember, and I'm sure all you mothers out there can probably relate to this, maybe, possibly, but for myself, I remember with my kids and how they behaved and how they looked was a reflection of me. Am I a good mother? So I remember, you know, one of my sons when when people were wearing the big clothes, you know, and the pants way down past their butt. I mean, they still do that, you know. And I thought, oh my gosh, like how, you know, what are the parents going to think about me? What are people going to think about me? So it was worrying more about myself than it really was about my kids. And I also remember my kids saying, can't you just dress like the other mothers in the school? And I said, but you know what? The thing is, I'm not like all the other mothers.
Yeah.
You know, so I knew that it was like, you know, I let them have an expression and be themselves. Same thing with me. And they realized that I wasn't like all the mothers. And you don't, you know, that's what we try to do. Like we try to clone or make each other look alike, and forget that. It's not about, you know, we're not supposed to be all alike. We're all supposed to be our different, known, unique way. But that's where this being really is about the confidence. I feel it's about the confidence that you have within yourself and really knowing who you are.
Right. But how do you get there? That's what I'm saying. If you are, you know, you've got great parents and, you know, they love you and you love them, and, you know, in situations, we all have these moments, like you being put in a different reading class, that somehow we have figured out all by ourselves means we're not just different, we're not good enough.
Right. But it's doing the work. This is what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about the emerging self. We have to go inside and do the work.
That's right.
And I remember, there's so many stories. It's just interesting how when you talk about these topics that it just feels like my whole life has been built around, stories, but which I think is really interesting for you and the audience and the viewers that are listening today and tuning in, that I remember my son, the youngest one, when he was in, I guess it was about 3rd grade, and he loved to share about everything.
Oh.
And so he would go into the teacher and he'd say, Miss Jones, I want to tell you about da-da-da. And she's like, we all need to sit down, da-da-da-da. And he just felt like he wasn't being heard.
Yeah.
And so she, said to me, she's like, I love Blake, dearly, da-da-da-da-da. But, he just really wants to share all the time. And I said, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you get a mailbox, like a little, a box that he can write a letter to you or a note saying what he wants to share about.
Oh.
And that way you can respond to him. And so lo and behold, she did this and it worked out perfect.
Oh.
So it's interesting because what I realized too is not only as parents, but as teachers, we tend to don't laugh, don't be silly in class.
Yeah. Don't ask too many questions. And don't share too much.
And don't share too much. And so what we're doing is we're dousing the lights and we're telling these kids, this is inappropriate, it's not to do that, which brings me up another story about another son of mine who goes into school, and here he has this teacher who calls me once a week, Brent's da-da-da-da-da, doing this and not doing that, and so on and so forth. And I told him, I said, really, and this is about people and where they're at in their own life. I said, who knows what's going on with her in her life?
Absolutely, the teacher.
That she, so for you, don't be the light that you're going to be. Be the person that you're going to be. Don't let anyone douse that light. But there's an appropriate time and place to do things. And it's not in the classroom when she's trying to teach. But don't let her override. And I'll tell you, that following year, he had her again. And even that year, their relationship completely changed. Because he knew it wasn't really about him, Do you have any stories that about being, not being enough or?
Well, I'm on sort of the other end of the stick of you, so I'm going to be the person who not was just different, I was just really in my own world. And in my world, I took my own time to find things, like, for example, my childhood dog. So instead of for the teacher or trying to get somebody else's attention or my parents, I would sit in the backyard and I would just tell my stories. And this dog, was not a purebred, just a wonderful, loving dog, would sit next to me. And I'd be chatting and I'd be elated sometimes and crying other times. And she'd just sit there. And if I seemed to get a little low or I was a little scared, she'd come right up to me and she'd just lick my face. She'd just come up and I could hear her saying, that's okay, that's okay. Anything else? I'm here to listen, whatever you need. And that's what we're after, that feeling of whatever you need being handled. And it wasn't my dog, but the childhood dog I spent more time with. Yeah. She was so special to me that way. So I think it's finding some means, and it isn't always with another human being. You'd like to, and sometimes it's with this person, maybe it's with someone else, but finding a place, whether you like to write. If you like to write stories, and you can have that world that in those stories, it all is perfectly working out as enough for you, in the story. Mm-hmm. It isn't always with another person. But you're right, we're not trained in this. I'm just telling you, for thousands of years, we're not trained in enough. I mean, it's that
we weren't trained in anything, period.
I know, for sure. Except maybe guard yourself. We might have a little training, or be sure to guard somehow. But just on the aspect that each of us as a person is a gift. We're each a gift. That doesn't mean I'm always operating from my giftness. It means that because I'm here, because you're here, because all the people that are here, because all of you are here, that's what makes the place interesting and stuff. And so it's like shifting how you hold it. It's that perceptual shift from, oh my gosh, I have to take care of my little world and I can't do it all and I don't know what to do, to, saying to somebody, how can I help? It can be even a neighbor. I'm thinking, we live next door to a woman who can't get out all the time. Even if I'm going to the store and just come over and say, hey, do you need a few groceries? I don't have to be anything big, and I can just tell you, it's really appreciated. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to help her pack her car because she's on crutches. And she kind of said, well, would you mind kind of helping me pack the car? And I said, really, be happy to. So it isn't always big things, It can be be small things to know that we're all participating and we're all of value. That's what you're talking on the emotional system. Our emotional system knows when we're included and it knows when we're not.
Yeah, well, and it's always, it's absolutely the truth of really your knowingness and the truth of where you're coming from as opposed to anything else. And I also remember, too, meeting up with a gal at the Philosophical Library, and I did a session with her, and then one of the first things that she said to me was, the masters just want me to let you know that you're here just to be. And I thought, okay, wait a minute, what does that look like, you know? And I'm thinking, you know, and so I really wasn't quite sure, but it was interesting because a lot of other people had told me that you're just here to be. And at that time, it was where I was being forced to, so to speak, to get a job, you know, to do something and things like that. And I just said to her, I said, well, I don't know how you can get paid for just being, but, you know, that's all new, that's news to me. But so she said, just, you know, if you believe you can, then you can. And so as time went on, I realized that what she meant really about being is being the love. It's being the peace. It's being the kindness. It's being who you are. And sure, how do you get to that place? Again, this is an inside job. It's going inside and really delving in and doing the work within. You know, the movie A Peaceful Warrior, Socrates, who was played by Nick Nolte, said to the guy, clean out the trash. And cleaning out the trash. We have so much stuff that resides up here that is just stuff. You know, so he said, if you want to access that part, that knowingness within inside yourself, you need to clean out the trash. So really, it's not about people knowing more than you. It's really about they have accessed that information. And for us, it's really about going into and being that and clearing out all this stuff and working on ourselves and bringing all this stuff to the surface and speaking about it.
Exactly, speaking about it, but delivering it, sometimes direct to people and sometimes just even in your mind's eye.
Right.
Even if you just envision them in your mind's eye and talk directly to them, you're also reaching them and you're getting energy out of you. Because sometimes people say, well, I have an issue with somebody who's passed away. You know, I can't talk with them. And I said, believe it or not, you can talk with them. You can talk with the essence of them. So anyway, so I just say it's time to, you know, start practicing it. It's a practice. It's not like, you know, you're going to be from here to here. It's a journey. So when you have more confidence and people encourage you to practice, then the more at ease you get and the better you feel. Again, it's like losing weight. Those first 5 or 10 pounds are tough, but when you start to lose, oh my gosh, then I call it our cork. You know, you take the lid off and that cork starts to buoyant. It's not like you have to force it up, it's buoyant.
Right. And the practicing really is about, it's about being that. And to really be love and to be kindness, if we're just doing the opposite, then that's not going to really, it's not going to move us in a direction if you know, it's like the people out there that are fighting for peace. Well, it's not about the fight, to me, in my belief. I believe it's about being the peace that you want to see in the world. You know? Exactly,
but there are those who would say, I have so much on my plate, I don't know how to get out from under it. Maybe it's, you know, their own mental thoughts are just so scary.
Right, that's what we're talking about, is bringing all this up to the surface.
And for sure, but I guess what I'm saying is that upon entering into this, I think it's also helpful to have, you know, a good friend
support.
Support, or a therapist, or, you know, however you set it up, so that you have someone there that's not just encouraging, but is kind of, you know, helping you, you know, make that change.
Absolutely.
So, because, you know, we're not in this life all by ourselves. We're in it together. I mean, you'd think we'd sort of notice that better.
Well, and interesting enough that you say that is that I just watched 2 movies, and I don't know if any of you viewers have watched these movies, but one is The Butler, and the other one is Fruitvale Station. And then we're talking about The Butler was done probably in the early 1900s. I know that
is where it took place.
Around that time. So I want to say 1940, 50s or something like that. It was around Martin Luther King and JFK. And I'll tell you, it was disturbing and distressing to me to see how, if you look back and you think of how we treated these people, I mean, you know, when I was watching that, I could feel the upset and the anger and the frustration of thinking, how could people be like that to another human being because of color, because of race? It really brought up a lot of things for me, and I thought, wow, we're talking only 100 years ago. Then I go to watch the Fruitvale.
You're talking JFK's 100 years ago?
No, I'm talking, that was 50 years ago.
I know.
No, but prior to him.
I know.
I mean, the Ku Klux Klan, that was going on prior to that. So that's what I'm talking about. This is maybe 100 years ago. We're not talking the 1800s. We're talking relatively recent, not that long ago. And then Fruitvale Station, that was only in 2009, where this gentleman, Oscar Grant, innocently happened to be in the wrong place, the wrong time. The police officer thought he was getting out his taser gun, and he got out his gun and he shot this guy in the back. 22 years old.
Oh dear.
Has a daughter and a girlfriend. You know, and you just look at that and you think, and why I'm really sharing this with you today is to really think about, how are we treating one another? When you watch these movies and you're out in your day-to-day and you're walking or you're, going about your day, and yeah, maybe you've had a bad day, but and if someone says hi to you, really acknowledge that, because that could break what's happening for you, in that moment of feeling whatever you're feeling. And like I said, I was so astounded by that, watching those movies, and I thought, wow, because the world, we are about relating.
But you've already mentioned too to me one time is that, you can watch a movie and sometimes it's just entertaining or maybe the topic escapes us. And then you watch it a few months later, a couple years later, and you think, oh my gosh, I didn't even see this before.
Right.
So
there are other
there are different places. So that's another way kind of to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
Is to figure out, wow, I know I've seen that movie before, but I don't remember this part.
Right, because our consciousness is so different at that.
Yeah. And it really is, because it's kind of like movies help us take us out of a moment, so to speak, and sort of put us in a moment. So,
well, and I know I was definitely in the moment with the Butler. I was definitely there. I was just like, I was crying, I was angry, I was frustrated. Yeah. So.
And did you ever think these people are acting?
Well, no, because I knew this actually took place.
I know, but I mean,
it would be different if this hadn't taken place and this was just a movie.
Oh, okay.
Then I could realize, okay, this is just a movie, it's acting. But knowing the history of this, no way. I knew that this actually took place in our history.
That's right.
And, I just thought, wow, like, people, wake up. Look at what we're doing. Look at how we're being. I mean, 2009 was 5 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. So I would say, what I want to say is that for all the parents, the teachers out there, allow the children to be expressing of who they are. They're so in the moment. They so love what they do. And just to express and be who they are and allow them to go after their dreams. I remember my mom, I wanted to have my name in the Hollywood lights. And she was like, oh, that's never going to happen. And that kind of doused mine. And I thought, well, I would like to have that happen someday. But, so allow your children to really express and be, even though we may not think that's what we want for them, but that's what I would really say, so it's really allowing that. Yeah. I think we have a question here, too.
Yes, we do. So how can you know when you have enough?
Yes.
Yeah, that's that boy. There you go. Because I'm sure inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
Well, let's see.
Are they the ones
that's
sending this
the
question
tough part
in?
with this word enough, and it's why we're kind of talking around it a little bit and stuff, is because it's not a set thing. I'm going to give my point of view. She'll give hers. But I, in working with people, recognize if you could buy this at Target, it'd be the best-selling product, because we all want enough. We want enough attention, we want enough stuff, we want enough feeling of self-worth. We all want that. But I can say that it's not something that I can give a definitive, in 2 weeks, if you do this, you'll feel enough. It's one of those, each one of us has to continue at something. Keep heading towards, wanting more safety in our life or wanting more abundance until we feel full. And there is a full feeling when you are being enough, having enough, and doing enough. And when Linda asked me that earlier, I've been blessed over the last 35 years to work with people, merged with them, to see where the glitches are for them. So I am so full when someone allows me into their inner world of how they're looking at things. They got their very, on their own path by their own life, and then figuring out ways to help them remove, for sure, but get that feeling of enough, to get full. Because I joke with people, when folks want to send something to me like, oh, Jeannie, you should do such and so, I'm like, I'll look down my shirt and say, oh, sorry, no room. Thanks so much for thinking of me. And they're like, oh, because we all have points of view. Even sometimes when I share something and, you may think, oh gosh, what does she mean? I'm really meaning I care, but it sounds like do it my way. So, it's good to ask questions. If someone, presents something to you and it sounds like, you mean you want me to do my life the way you want me to do it? Well, somebody might answer yes, but but normally you're just saying, no, I just want what's best for you. And then you go, oh, they're letting me know they care. Well, that we want enough of too, because, how many people live alone and nobody cares to call? And so, it's part of it.
Yeah, and I would agree too. I also think that really, how do you know you have enough? This really goes back to what we've been talking about. It's filling yourself up first, because nothing or no one is going to ever fill the void, no matter what. We've talked about that in fear. We've talked about it in lack. Here it is again. Next week we'll have another a topic. And so all these are interlinked. And so until we do the work within inside and feel that we have enough, and when you know that you can look at something or someone in your life and know that, do I feel like I need to have that person? So for me, I think it's really about going and self-reflecting and looking at what is your motivation? What is your intention behind wanting to go out with that person, or wanting to acquire that car, or wanting that home? Is it coming from a lack within ourselves? Is it coming because we don't have enough? Again, we shared in last week talking about lack consciousness, that you could have all the things in the world, the yachts, the cars, the women, the money, you name it, you can have it. But there's this emptiness that's going to be empty. There's a fulfillment. So I look at people and I say more about, it's more about fulfilling this, whatever that void inside yourself, as opposed to having all this stuff, and having that think that that's going to fulfill it. So that's what I would say, is that when you know within yourself that you can stay at a neutral place where you can go, I can go into a store and think, okay, here's a dress that I really like. I really like this dress, but do I need this dress? And I can say, well, I don't need it, but I really would like it. Okay, so am I in a place financially that I can acquire this dress? So I really have to do a lot of discerning, because I'll tell you, when we go into talking about having, that I was just, after I left my, husband and separated, that I was just going out and buying and buying and buying, and to fulfill that emotional need. And so I thought, I'd get this home, this outfit or whatever it was, and I'd realize that didn't make me happy. I'm still feeling the emptiness. So that's how I would say, is that when you know that you've had enough, is that you feel it. You're so full. And just what Jeannie's saying, that she feels so full, So when you feel that fullness, it's like, it's that feeling good about yourself, feeling good inside. You can't explain this stuff. It's really,
but when it's
a
there.
Feeling, but it's there, and it exudes you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt her.
Yeah.
And she's so good now. She doesn't let me interrupt her. I want to commend you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
That tells you we have colleagueship here. Just a minute. I want to finish my thought. But I was going to say, when people have a lot, look to see how they're treating the people in their lives. That tells you if they're in lack. So if you're wondering, what's a key tip? That just came up as she was speaking. So they have all the money, all the stuff, the men or women, all that stuff. But how are they treating their stuff and the people or their employees or whatever? That'll tell you if they're actually in lack.
Absolutely. And are they willing to give? I mean, you can have all the money and somebody's in need, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't have enough money for you. I don't have enough. Yeah. And yet you have enough money, so that's another way too. Yeah,
exactly,
absolutely.
That's what I'm saying, because they're unaware that they're showing us that they don't have enough here. So I've said, and that's why on these topics for this month, I can sort of inject, but not so much from my personal experience, because for me, I've invested in humans. rather than investing in the dollar bill, I've invested in people. And in so doing, I have a lot of people in my life. I have a lot of folks that I can call upon because they're, oh, Jeannie, you were so helpful to me. How can I help you? So that's part of what has gone on for me, is saying, when it comes to dollar bills, I don't own very many, which is why I just got signed up for Medi-Cal, which we know puts me in the welfare program. But the truth of the matter is, I don't run with as many dollar bills, and no one is wealthier in this fullness, this enough you're talking about. I have enough that I, even last night, wanted to share with a person in the middle of my sleep so that she knew that she was valuable to me.
Yeah.
And she got it.
Yeah.
That's
and
what's in it.
we attach our self-worth to dollar bills.
I know.
Or to material
and I
things.
like them. I don't dislike
Yeah,
them.
no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But what I was referring earlier was that have you had any experience in your life where you didn't feel that you were enough yourself?
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm sure they're in there, but
you're so full.
Because of the fullness,
Yeah.
My mind is like looking through other. It's not so much like a computer for me. Mine has to look through the boxes. So what box do we put that in? I'm certain. I'm a human. Fearful. People not saying what they mean or meaning what they say. All of that, can happen for me. But I'm obviously not staying there.
Yeah.
So as for the enough, I would say enough has come in for me. That enough moves me on to want to be more of service. Whether there's a dollar bill attached or not.
Right. Well, and you said something that it's not really there. And I don't feel like, I know when we're talking about this, that like all these stories that I'm sharing, I don't really feel like I'm there, but I feel that it's pertinent to bring up to the viewers and listeners and to share.
Absolutely. That's why I'm not here by myself. Right. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, so it's just interesting because, that it's relatable, I think, when you can actually say, hey, I've had this experience. Because that's one of the things I want to say. That, you know what, you guys are not in this by yourselves. Trust me. You are not alone. There are so many other people out there that are experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. What we're doing with the show is bringing all this to the surface. This is the time to raise everything up, bring it to this consciousness, and explode it out. And really just... clean out the trash.
Yes, and not leave it at that.
Yeah.
See, just because we clean out, then we're an empty vessel, which we could put some of the same stuff back in. But as we clear out enough, we're also, bringing heaven to earth is to bring information and news about your true gifthood, your magnificence, that will infiltrate and take over those places, so it's not replacing it with like the same old upsets. So it's a dual system. Yeah. So we're both in it. We're in the process ourselves.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because we talk about, which we're going to talk about next, is about doing. And we're human beings, not human doings, which is actually fascinating because, for me, I know that in the past it was about do. And with this whole court thing, and I apologize, this topic will hopefully be not a topic in our shows after this end of this month. But you know what, again, it's really pertinent, and I think it's important to bring it to light. It's not for me, but it's for everybody else. But when they're saying, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that. Well, I want to say, who put you in charge?
Right. There you go.
That to say that you have to get a certain job, because what I was doing was going out and looking for a job to do. That I had to do. I had to do something. So my point is it's not about going out and doing something.
It won't give enough.
It's not. So it's about really you finding and going within and finding out what works for you. Trying different things out, as we said in last week's show as well. Trying different things out for yourself that that your interests are in. So you can start working in an avenue that fulfills you from every part of your being, that fulfills you.
Yeah. I do have a story on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm out in the middle of nowhere on Highway 40, not quite to Santa Fe, and certainly not quite in Texas, and I have a flat tire. So somebody comes along, didn't even see them stop. He comes up behind me and says, "Do you need some help?" And I mean, my car's packed. We unpack, have it, get the tire all done, thinking, wow, that was miraculous. And it was good, but it didn't handle the problem. So we handled the second problem because even the spare tire decides it's going to go out. So now I actually need a tow. And this was the guy. He was so amazing. This guy, he and his wife had been computer programmers. They had big jobs, you know, major city. I don't know if San Francisco, doesn't matter. You know, and here he's doing the family business. And so, you know, I'm with him quite a bit, you know, kind of thing. And he has to stop and help someone else. And all during this, he says, you know, we were out there after the dollar bill and after the dollar bill. And my wife kept getting sick. And I was so stressed, you know. I was like at the doctor's myself, just getting tablets to offset. And we looked at ourselves one day and said, why? And so, you know, they said, oh my gosh, because right then, you know, his dad was kind of retiring. So he and the wife took over the family business, and he is just so delighted, a little like Socrates in the Peaceful Warrior.
Yes.
He is so happy, and she's so happy. She runs I guess the bookkeeping, that portion of it and stuff. And so, you know, it's in the middle of the night. It's out in the middle of nowhere, so there's no like motel to stay. So I asked him, can I stay with my car at the station? Now this is like, you know, 11:30 at night. Oh, no problem. And I have refrigerator items with me, so he opens up, and in there he's got a Coke machine area that's cool. So we put all my little food products in there, and the bathroom's real tidy. I mean, how many places do you go to where the service station bathroom is tidy? It was so great, and he was so helpful the next day. I only bought the one tire. He didn't sell me 4, and then he wasn't happy I didn't have a spare. So he says, we've got a junkyard across the way. Let me just go see if there's one there. And he comes back, he found one. So he fixed the issue, which was a flap that was like a knife on the tire, fixes the tire, gives me a new spare, charges me like $169.95, something like that. And when we come out, I'm kind of in tears, and I said, I know this sounds so silly, but my car is so special. She takes such good care of me on the road, and I'm starting to tear up. And this man turns to me and goes, I know just what you mean. I've got 2 tow trucks over there I can't let go of because they don't work anymore, but I just care about them so much.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, now there you have it.
Exactly.
There you have it. That's what we're about, is right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, you know, you can do. And, you know, it's like, I feel that it's like forcing something to happen. It's like taking and, you know, and planting a flower, and you want to see it grow, you know, you want to see it bloom, and you know, it's like grow, do whatever you need to do. You know, it's not going to, because there's a process. There's a process in nature.
That's so true.
And it's the same thing with us. It's a process. This doesn't happen overnight. This, you know, it's a gradual thing. It's about being in conscious awareness, being in awareness of every moment of what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's like, again, what is your intention? We talk about enough.
Yeah.
What is your intention with getting that? I mean, too many people, you know, I moved out here from the Midwest, and it was about what you drive and what you did. You know, and people attach themselves to, I did a radio show. One of my first radio shows were around that. What we do and what we drive, you know, make who we are. And that is so untruthful. It is not.
It's very
because,
limiting.
you know, and then I heard at a spiritual event one time that they said, okay, what if you had nothing? What if you lost the house? What if you lost the car? You had nothing. Then who are you? Yeah. And it makes you start to think, wow, who am I? Because after all of that, when that's all taken away, that's when you have to really, that's when a lot of people, when they've lost everything that they've built this, you know, to rise to this occasion of giving achieving and gathering everything, to end up with nothing, it's very devastating. And
or
they're
to
like,
see
wow.
that they really have everything in the family, that nobody got hurt if it was a disaster or something.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it just reroutes
So
us.
there's so much. So it's, you know, the dollar bills, your self-worth, it's not based on dollar bills. There's so many more ways that we can give to other people instead of dollar bills. Our time, our energy,
and
the
listening.
support, just what you were saying this morning with your friend. That and being there, and exactly, just listening and being there for that person makes all the difference in the world.
It's true.
Absolutely.
So being,
this whole
doing, having.
thing,
Any more questions?
Wow. Yeah.
We'll take a look. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Is it bad or wrong to want more than enough? Now that's pretty good, because we're just saying, hey, enough should be enough. No,
not at all. No, like just as Jeannie was saying, no, we love dollar bills. We love, I mean, I love having my car. Do you mind if I start first? I guess. Since I've already started talking.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We've unleashed her. She's unleashed, and here we go. I love it.
Bring me in this environment and unleash. Maybe that should be one of our next shows, being unleashed. I don't know. But anyway, we can go a whole other way with that. But yeah, you know, it's really, we do love stuff. I mean, look, we're here. Again, human beings, what they say, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. You know, we're in this human that we have to have homes overhead. You know, we have to have food on our plate, a thing to drive, or getting to the bus or a bike or things. So absolutely, of course we do. But again, I think it goes back to, what is your intention? How much are you trying to acquire? Are you trying to gather all this stuff to be enough to
prove it to somebody?
I mean, my ex-husband had this sign in his, this goes into having, had this sign, and he probably still does, in his garage, the one with the most toys wins.
Oh.
You know, so
well, there you
really,
go.
what are we saying? You know, we have to get all this and then we win. It's not, you know, again, to me, if there's, and we know we talked about this with the Olympics, there's this win-loss. Well, to me, I don't think there's a win-lose. I honestly don't. I think when there's a sport, when it happens, I would say, you know what? You may not have, quote, won, but you made it to that event. Absolutely. No one else can say they made it to that event, but you did.
Exactly.
And that's what it is for me, because competition creates separation. So I don't believe there's competition.
Yes,
you know,
but if you know you're connected, then you can play in competition, but we've made competition the end result. But I can tell you, as I'm watching the Olympics, there are a lot of stories there that aren't about the win-lose, and it's about the courage of them, what they've gone through. They broke their neck, their foot, all these things, and they're there. And you're right, this is the top athletes, but they're there representing their country. So I'm hearing, even in these sporting events, a change towards the courageousness of people. And that's what we want to be full of, full of our adventurous spirit and our courageous and our bravery. So somebody gets the top spot, but I've listened to several of the events, bobsleds being one, the ski jumping, where, oh my gosh, somebody that hasn't done well over the season and then has the jump of their life, and you see it on their face, it radiates down their body that, oh my gosh, that they were fully enough in that moment. So you're only seeing it. It's great.
Well, and I think, too, when you really, again, I feel like when you really love what you do, that all of this, really becomes this... it's enough. It doesn't, then there isn't, it's not about competition. Yeah. It really is about, this is what my love is. This is what I enjoy doing. Yeah. The bobsledding or any of that. And I wasn't really referring to winning and losing with that, but I know we were talking about that.
I know, I just was saying, I happened to mention because I saw it.
Exactly, because I think it's just in life when we're trying to, again, in divorce cases or in court cases where, there's people being sued, it has to be a winner or a loser. To me, it's like, at some point in life and in time, I hope that, and I trust that there won't be this where it's, this feeling that happens in these courtrooms, that it is about a loss and a win.
Exactly.
It really is about the fairness.
And the more we speak to stuff, the more we say it, then that's where we're going to get it.
Right, because it ripples out. Like this whole conversations, Jeannie and I doing this TV show, this is a ripple effect. It goes out into the consciousness. When you're having a conversation with people, it ripples out because it's a vibration. And so when you're speaking of that things, that's why I feel it's really important that we talk about good things, but as well, we have to get the energy out because we don't want to stuff it. We don't want to bury it,
push it down.
Cap it, so there's all, but really in going out there and doing work, it really is about, being in the goodness from your heart.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the doing and the having, it's all in this conversation. So we've been speaking to all three all the way along. Because having, it's having what works for you, then that's enough. Okay, and if it's doing the kinds of things that you love, and it's being in the joy of all that. So, oh my gosh, 3 questions.
Yes, thank you so much for your questions. We love these.
Okay, so how do we get rid of survival thinking? Okay, boy, that's
because we're all in survival. We're all in survival. It's like we're struggling.
Okay, so
Calgon, take me away.
Do you want to start?
No, go ahead. You're on the roll. I'll unleash you.
Oh, thank you. In survival, literally, it's like you're in water swimming and you can't get your head above water enough to breathe the air. Yeah. So in survival, just know any of us will do anything, no matter if we're a nice person or not, we'll do anything to survive. So in that survival moment, I'm going to say, I believe there are enough organizations on the planet. I think there are enough people. I think there are enough areas and places you know, like a center you can go to and say, I'm drowning. Okay, I need help. Maybe I need help just to get enough food for the day. Yeah. Maybe I need help with my kids because it's just me and I just can't do it, you know, single parent. But I believe that if we can imagine that there is now enough opportunity, maybe not before people say, oh, you know, just handle it yourself, but not now. I think you're going to find there are enough areas and people to say, how can I help? Yeah. And just getting yourself to ask that again, even if you've asked it before and you said, oh my gosh, nobody cared, and you know, my kids never call and nothing happens, I'm going to say try again. I'm going to say then try again. You know, and if this arena doesn't work, then try this center. You know, if you know, you might find a family member that's a distant relative. You might find somebody that you're kind of an acquaintance with, but you become better friends because they're hearing that you are asking and you're ready to move out of survival. But it is very, you know, it has fear, it has lack, it has all these things, you know. But I can tell you that there is now enough on the planet. The planet itself, that's the more cosmic part, is really ready to address these things. Just the air we're breathing is ready to address these things. So I say try again.
Yeah, and I ditto that as well, and I also think that too that it really is, it's in speaking your truth, and we have to realize, I know, you know, for myself, I can do this. I don't need anybody else to do this. I can, because what I've done in the past is I will just shut everyone out, and I will just go within, and I realize that it doesn't work. You just can't shut everyone else because there's people out there who really do want to help you. It's inviting, but we have to admit that we do need the assistance. And when you know that there's people and organizations out there, because there's a multitude of people that are out there ready and willing to help, we just have to admit, first of all, that we need help. And I feel that, you know, that may come from that I'm afraid to admit that I need the assistance of food. I'm afraid to admit that embarrassing, you know. So all of these things are coming up, and so when we can acknowledge that and know that, you know what, this doesn't make me who I am. It is not a representation of who you are. It's an experience that we're going through because, you know what, in reality, my belief is that there is no way that we are going to be able to grow in this world without experiences and situations. We need each other to help us to be able to grow. The only way we can grow is in relationship, whether it's in relationship with community, society, intimate, your family, whichever. That's the only way. So that's how I feel about survival, is that, you know, it's really speaking your truth.
And the thinking part that she's talking of is when you're thinking, as she said, closing everyone out. As soon as that thought comes up, not to talk to anybody, that's the very moment to make the call.
Absolutely.
That's the very moment to speak. Yes. That's the very moment to say, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on, but however it comes out, that's the moment. So we can say, if you're thinking that you need to protect or confine yourself, that's the very thinking that keeps survival going.
Yeah, yeah, and you may be, you know, there was times when I would be like, do I hit on the button, you know, just to, you know, dialing that person? It's like, but I'll tell you, in the end, it really is worth it. Always. It will always be worth it to do it. So,
and you're worth it. That's
exactly
what we're saying. No matter what you have or haven't done on this planet, how it's gone, I wouldn't want anybody in pain or under attack. All I can tell you is none of that has anything to do with your value. Your value is intact. It can be set aside, but it is never gone.
Yeah.
It is never gone. Yeah. You're always, the gift of you is what makes the planet a nicer place.
Yeah, absolutely. And the consciousness, I feel, is changing too, where people are recognizing, I think with just these movies that are coming out, that people really are bringing this to the surface in different ways that are relatable to society. And so I think it's really changing. And I think with this talk show and other, other shows that are out there as well, we're all in this together. And so that's the beauty of it all, that I feel, is that we're all really trying to make a difference and awaken the consciousness and bring awareness to people. And how do you live consciously?
And it's in our politics too. It's in our politics. It's in Egypt's politics, people uprising and saying, I don't need to be treated this way. Or, if you're my representative, I'd like to be represented. So we're hearing it a whole lot more. Right. And like I said, once enough has come out here, the laws will change.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world will change.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, there's, it's just, I guess just bringing all this to surface and just being able to give the viewers and listeners an opportunity to be able to feel and have the how-tos on really how do we do this? Where do we go? And like we've always said, this is an inside job. It really is going inside and doing the work. And again, we've said this before, and we're going to probably say it on every single show, it's not easy. Yeah. This is not an easy task. And it's one that it's scary, and so when you think about all the stuff. Oh, I do want to read a quote. So I know, sorry. I meant to read this quote last week when we had this, and it just came into my awareness. It was like, okay, I need to read this.
Speaking of which.
Yes, I need to remember to say this quote. So I'm going to do two quotes here. Okay. One is for last week, and this is by Michael Bassey Johnson, which I don't know who that is, but never heard of him. There's poverty in wealth. If a man is wealthy without good health, he is not poor. If a man is wealthy without children, is he not poor? If a man is wealthy without God, is he not poor? If a man is wealthy without giving alms, is he not poor? If a man is wealthy without wisdom, is he not poor? Then there's a great lack in riches.
Now, may I ask on the first line about the health? I heard it opposite to what I think you meant. Maybe she said it correct. I heard
there's
it wrong.
Poverty in wealth. Yeah. If a man is wealthy without good health, is he not poor?
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I heard it backwards, so I thought, I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, just really interesting. When you really listen, It's like watching those movies, and you can watch the movies and just be watching them and get lost in the movie. Or you can watch the movie and really see what the subliminal messages are for you. Same thing. So it's just really interesting how you can listen to music, and you can listen to the music, but then when you really listen to the music, then you really hear something that's much different. So I think that's really important to say. So the other quote, and this one is for actually this topic for today, is, and this is by Michael Beckwith, who is the founder of Agape up in Los Angeles, California. There is a lie that acts like a virus within the mind of humanity. And that lie is there's not enough good to go around. There's lack and there's limitation and there's just not enough. The truth is that there's more than enough good to go around. There is more than enough creative ideas. There is more than enough power. There is more than enough love. There's more than enough joy. All of this begins to come through a mind that is aware of its own infinite nature. So, we talk about there's an abundance of everything. There is no lack in this vast universe. But we have created the lack ourselves by our own experiences, our own make-believe of what we've created in our own minds, that we've created all this, So exactly. There really isn't. And I just think it's really interesting how we can feel that there's just not enough to go around. I feel that's where competition comes in. It's like, if they're competing with me, then I'm not going to have enough, and oh my gosh. And really, when you know what you do, there's going to always be enough out there. And we just have to have trust and faith that there's going to be enough out there.
Yeah. And belief.
Absolutely. And belief. Yeah.
So, but as we say, all of these are wonderful ideas, and our mind can say, oh, yeah, that sounds great. I know sometimes I've gone to church on Sunday, and it was a great sermon, and I heard it, and it sounded great. But a couple days later, I must have not heard it on all pistons, so because I wasn't thinking that. So, we're speaking, but even like last week, Linda was with herself emotionally in a moment. those aren't the things that you can, predetermine or just think on. That's where the emotions and the words and the body are all welling up with the same thing. And that's why I was concerned for her, because I could see that like deer in the headlight awareness. And it isn't always that dramatic. It's just good to know that there are times you could be driving your car and, oh my gosh, you'll realize, wow, that's what they were talking about, And it's something in your own world that has raised up enough for you to see that you can maybe look at that item differently, like speeding. We keep thinking, oh, those police are out to get us. Aren't they out to get us? Doggone it, I'm going 92 and they're out to get us. Well, just because the speed limit is 65, what's the big deal? But we just don't realize that we have added to some of our distress. And so, as Linda's saying, as we get more conscious and say, if I choose to drive closer to the speed limit, I really don't have to care where those cops are. Or if I choose, not to be on my cell phone, it's not an issue. So I'm saying it's about time for us we don't have laws to harm us. We have rules and regulations to help us all, have a nicer day.
Right. Well, and with all of this, it's, again, I feel that this really goes back to, you can, watch these shows, listen to the shows, but it really is applying. It's applying what you're getting from this, what's resonating with you. So it is, it's applying that and just not listening to it and going about your day and something happens and, of course, life is going to still happen. Life is going to still give us situations and experiences. So I would say apply it. So we want to thank all the listeners and viewers out there for tuning in today, and be sure to go to our YouTube channel at Conscious Awareness TV and make sure you like us, make sure you subscribe to us, and then also if you have any questions or share your stories, because if you've watched the shows and something came up for you and you would love to share your story, really write it into admin@consciousawareness.tv.com, and we would love to share your story, because really this all helps with everybody that knows that they're not in this alone.
Exactly.
That we're all in this together, and however we can help one another, that's what we're here to do. So, again, we thank you so much. We thank Wayne and Pam for this beautiful place to be able to film here, and our cameraman, Wayne, has a company called Major Video Incorporated. So if you need a video edited, wanted one done, and anything, the magical creations of whatever that is, contact him at www.majorvideosincorporated.com and look at, ask him all the things that he does. He does a multitude of things. So he's phenomenal, fabulous. He'll get you what you need. So thank you again. Thank you for joining us. And tune in next week. We will be talking about habit energy. And then come March, we will be lighting up and just
marching on a little bit. Just
marching
because
on,
we can. We'll
and
see.
And not that these are, but it is kind of drudgery. And, having some different topics that are a little bit lighter. But, we have to go through this. This is life. We have to do this. So thank you again. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.
Bye.